Good morning, tube Ubers. All right, we're going to do something that I've been dreading for a very long time. That is actually work on the 2014 Ecodiesel. We're going to do a little maintenance, as Vice Grip Garage would say. We are going to shoot some grease into these hubs. Now, granted, these are sealed hubs, but you can grease them according to forums and get some longevity out of them. What you have to do is, where the ABS wire goes way back there behind the dust shield hide, there you are, way back there. But you can't get to the bolt, at least not without taking the whole assembly apart. Now, I've already done that on this side a couple of nights ago, when this hub assembly now has, I'd say, more play than a playground in it, but that would be incorrect. It is more like a kid's summer vacation. This wheel is absolutely horrible, and I would like to save the new tires that I just put on the truck. So what I've done is I took all this assembly apart and greased that hub as best I could. It still has some play in it, but now it's got grease in there to try and keep the groaning, the growling, and the extra wear down. So I can save on that until, when I get paid, and get 2 new hub assemblies and new brakes, because they're about halfway worn, and rejuvenate the whole thing. I want to paint the calipers with a clear high temp clear coat, get some rust remover, the rust eater that you can put on there, and try and eat the rust out of the rotors, because the rotors are actually not in bad shape. There's really not a whole lot of lip to them, and they can be sanded and get the glazing off of them for seating new pads. So that's a plus. I won't have to replace the rotors, just the brakes. Now, what led me to knowing that this wheel bearing was going bad is, well, a couple of things. I mean, one, you would make a right and load this side of the front suspension, and it would groan really badly. Also, when driving down the highway, you'd feel a slight vibration in the steering wheel, or even down in, because I sit with my feet here with the cruise control on, right there, and you could feel a vibration in the pedal box. So that's your pretty good indication that you've got a wheel bearing getting ready to go south. The vibration will be the first, and then you'll kind of start hearing the groaning when you load the suspension, and then after that it's game on. This truck's been aligned. It was aligned before the bearing went out. I think I know why the bearing went out, because I live in Missouri. We have, what's this white stuff it's called snow, and I hit a huge chunk of ice coming off of a bridge that the snowplow skipped over. So yeah, hit that at 60 miles an hour. It made my teeth shake and my neck pop. It was a good hard hit. So it actually put this tire 2 degrees out, so I had to have the whole truck realigned. And then the bearing went bad, because that was the side that took a pretty good impact too. So I think that helped the wear on that bearing. So anyway, so we'll get started on this. The list of tools that you're going to need, at least if you're doing this in your driveway like me, some people may not have some of this stuff, but you'll need what size is that? There it is. A 13 millimeter. That is to get the brake caliper off the race. You will need a 21 millimeter for the bolts on the race to get the race off. You will need a 4 millimeter. What is this called? Allen head. 4 millimeter Allen head to get the bolt for the ABS sensor out. you'll also need, just in case, that the slides want to move around, a thin wall adjustable wrench or adjustable pliers. You'll need a small pair of needle nose to get the retainers that hold your rotor in place. I saved on these. I did not put them back in the other side yet because I already knew that I was going to have to take it all back apart again, so I didn't put them back on, but I did manage to save them, and we'll reuse them, because really what those are, the only thing those are for is when they build the truck at the factory. That's how I know this front end has not come apart. When they put this together at the factory, they use those to hold the rotor in place until they put the rest of the braking system together. So what I ended up having to do, since I didn't put those back in, is you just take a lug nut, run a lug nut back onto it, and then you put everything back together. So that's that on the tools. And this right here is actually for when I take it apart. This is for the hub nut. So that's for the hub nut. Now, from what I've read, that's 180 foot-pound of torque on that, which I don't have my 1/2-inch torque wrench anymore because my son destroyed it. So I'm gonna have to go buy a new torque wrench. But where this gets very difficult is, now granted, I live in a salty area, but I crawl into the truck every once or twice a year. As a matter of fact, I got to do it again and pressure wash the whole truck. So there's for a 6-year-old truck, it's very minimal rust, but the hub has got lots of rust on it. This is all rust, and this is going to keep this rotor in place, and it is a bear to get off. Like, I had to, as Vice Grip Garage would put it, I had to pull out my Tanya Harding and a 2x4, and I'll show you how to do that when it comes time. It's gonna be fun. Let's play. All right, so first thing we need to do is locate our can of knocker loose. So that way we can spray our bolts down and spray our hub down and try and mitigate some of that nastiness. So let's see. Oh. Okay. Back here on these bolts, caliper bolts, and also our race bolts, which are down there. Ugh. There it is, right there. So, now, the devil is in the details on this one. So, eventually when I replace this hub, we're going to have to get back there, and there are 3 bolts. Once I get this off, you'll be able to see the back side of the bolts that hold the hub in place. And I have a strange feeling, call it a bad feeling, really bad feeling, I'm going to have to get a gear puller. Put a gear puller in there, put it around the hub, and yank this thing forward, because it's probably not going to want to come off the half shaft. Not as easily as I'd like. And I don't want to yank this forward because I don't want to separate that knuckle inside the half shaft or pull it out of the transfer, or the front differential up there, because that would be bad. So I got to be very careful with this. I'm going to have to go get a gear puller and probably pull this forward. Now, the reason why I'm going through this video is not to show you how to do this, but what you may go through if you own a Midwestern truck like me. And yeah, it looks pretty good. Oh, this should all just fall right apart. Nope, sure doesn't. So this ought to be fun. And like I said, the first thing we got to do is get these off. That one right there, and that one right there. And that's pretty easy. So we come over to our muffin pan full of tools, which the muffin pan over there, it's a trick I learned, that when you're taking bolts off, you put each of your bolts into your muffin pan. So that way, you keep track of all your bolts and all your miscellaneous parts like that. I'll have to move that later because I'll be laying in this area, hitting it from the back side after this caliper's taken off and trying to drive this rotor forward to get it off this hub, which is going to take a hot minute. And the other thing is too, when you're doing that from back here with the piece of wood and the hammer, you don't want to keep hitting the same side. You can distort this rotor pretty quick. So you want to take it, hit, 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 spin, hit, 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 spin, hit, 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 spin, hit, 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 until you finally drive the rotor off of its shoulder here. And yeah, that's quite a pain in the ass. So we'll take our needle nose here, and grab these little tines, and try and pull and twist very slightly until you can get it away from the rotor. And once you do that, you can actually get your fingers behind it and pull it towards you using the threads. See there, it's coming off very slightly. Now be careful, you'll cut your fingers doing this way. But I unfortunately have very road-worn fingers. So bring this out. Wish I had time lapse. I just will spin this off and be done with it. But watch, I'm doing this video and I'll probably pull all this stuff off here, and this friggin' rotor is just gonna go kerplunk and fall right off in my hand, and I'm gonna be very upset because I'm over here showing you what you're gonna have to do to it. Here, mine just falls right off. Alright, so we'll put that in there with the other one, and same with this little guy down here. Oh, this one doesn't want to spin. Up there it goes. Okay, good. That was going to be an issue for a second. I was going to get a little upset because that other one just twisted right off and said, okay, fine, I give. But see, I want to save these because I want to have the maintain the factory look. Like, oh, Captain Shade Tree hasn't been in here yet. So, and see, I know there's a video out there, like Guy's Boosted Motorsports or something, where he replaced the wheel hubs on his Ecodiesel that he just replaced the engine in because apparently the oil pump failed in it and it ate its bearings for lunch. Now granted, he's got a much low mileage vehicle compared to me. I've got 168,000 miles on this truck now and counting. So I'm not really too upset that the hub actually is going bad, because I never did any of this beforehand, and most people on forums, it comes right off nice and clean. Most people on forums say you got to get back here about every 50,000 miles or so and pump some grease into them, and they'll last the lifetime of the truck, or if you do it right, it does. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Alright, so we'll put you on pause until I go to the next step. Alright, so the next step in this, for those that don't have the fancy caliper compressor, which I don't, I just have a rather large C-clamp. You take the C-clamp, you put it back here, right there, where it'll hold, and then run the front end. Now mind you, I've broken these loose. They actually came loose pretty easily. Broken these two loose, and then you take your C-clamp, and you don't want to compress it all the way because you're not replacing the brake pads, but you compress it in there a little bit so there's kind of a gap. Get to your good spot. There you go. So there's a little bit of a gap there. Alright, release your C-clamp, feed it out, set it to the side, and then take your caliper off, which is pretty straightforward, very easy. Where did my wires go? Somewhere around here I have a wire that I can use to, it's not up there anymore. What did I do with it? I need my wire to hang my caliper up so it's out of the way and it doesn't get damaged. Pause you again. Alright, now here's where these guys come in. Alright? See here that your brake caliper slides where your bolts go? Oh look, it's spinning. Great. Alright, so this one luckily has flats on it. And you can, not hard, but since I've got them cracked loose, you can hold the flats, but not a camera. So let me set you down here. There you go. Hopefully see what I'm up to. So hold the flats, not hard, just very softly. Get the bolt loose. Spin the bolt out, like so. And there you go. One little bolt. Throw it in your 10. Wait for the next bolt. And hope it doesn't spin. I'm sure that it will. Yep, see, look, there it's spinning. So again, get your adjustables out. Very easily grab it because the bolts are loose. There you go. It spins right on out. Okay, now in the tray it goes. Take your little piece of wire here, pull these back a little bit, wiggle the caliper free, slide that through there, and get it up and out of the way over here, because I will be beating on this with a hammer, so I don't want to have the caliper in the way. And Bob's your uncle. Now that that's supported and out of the way, we'll move on to the next step, which is to get those big guys out. Back there, see? Big guy, big guy. So set you back down, and we'll get those bolts loose. Hopefully you can see. Now, might need a breaker bar. So I do have a bit of a cheater, and like so. Of course, that went in the wrong spot. I didn't want it to go there. It'll work. Alright, yeah. Ate myself. There we go. Okay. Now you don't want to use the breaker bar through the whole thing. Just enough to bring it loose. Okay. And then you can switch over to your 1/2-inch driver. And get off that way. There we go. Puffington. Nice to come up real quick. Brake pads. Alright, so here's where the instructional part of the video comes. This is where you have your Tanya Harding, a piece of wood, and a very stuck, not gonna move caliper or rotor. So, what you want to do is crawl underneath the vehicle, like so. So you've got this gap right here where your caliper would sit, and take a 2x4 like so. Start at the bottom, closest to the dust shield, and I'm still not going to be able to hold you guys to do this, but maybe we can put you in a spot where you can see. And we take the hammer, spin the rotor, spin the rotor, oh yeah, there's some rust coming out of that baby. Let's check our progress, shall we? Okay. Yeah, it's moving forward, so where that line is, it's sitting further forward, as you can see. Focus, focus. So it's sitting more forward. So once I get it to pop off that little rust-jacked shoulder, it'll be nice. Be right back. Well, still at it. There's still a small gap, but it will come off there. I'm just tired. That is a heavy hammer when you're wielding it above your head. I'll be back. Alright, so still working on it. It's probably been 30 minutes beating on that thing, and it still hasn't given. So keep going. Alright, we finally struck Eureka. There's what keeps you on the hub. That rust right there. Set that aside. So, now we're down to our goal, which is that little guy right there. That is our ABS sensor. And you can... What do I do with my socket? There it is. 4mm. Okay. Okay. Oops, yes. So, I'll take this little bolt out. Oh, look at that. That was the wrong size. That was the other one I needed. Thought it was the 4. I was wrong. Alright, now, that's simple enough to fix, I guess.
So in the past 60 years, things have really changed. This is a brand new 2013.
Ooh. Okay, now.
Under the hood, that's 285 horsepower. That is a lot.
Alright. So I was wrong. It was a 5 out of 4. That was a 4, but it was a 5. Okay. Now 5mm goes in there. Get off. So that doesn't feel right. That feels more right. There we go. Okay. So it's hard to do this with a camera in your hand. Okay. Oh. Look, they used Loctite. Can't put any anti-seize in the hub, but they can put Loctite on the son of a bitch. Alright. So, let's check this thread pitch. I might cheat a little. So, this is a grease zerk. Right. What I did last time was pulled the sensor out of the hub. Focus. So I pulled the wheel speed sensor out of the hub and just shoved a grease zerk on the end of my thing and did it that way. I'm wondering, those threads look pretty similar. So if the threads are similar, the size is similar, it's similar. We're going to screw a grease zerk in there and go that way. Oh, look at that. Get a couple of threads of a grease zerk in there, like so. It's not in there super tight, but I can get my grease gun on that and fill that sucker full of grease. So, clear myself out a little place to sit. Pull out my trusty, sun warmed. Let that cool down a minute. Sun warmed grease gun. We'll inject a little grease in there. And it's supposed to take about 30 or 40 pumps. So if I had a straight up and down grease zerk instead of this angled one, I would be able to spin that all the way in there and leave it in. And then next time I come back to do this, I could just take care of it and be done. Well, at least that was some thinking. Set you down here a second. Come on. There you go. Smash that on there. grease zerks do that. Hose finally busted. That's good. Well, anywho, some of this on the wheel hub, because it won't want to come off again next time. So we'll just smear the grease on there, make her hold off the rust. All right. So apparently that grease zerk is trash. Now I gotta go replace a part. So excuse me again. Alright, so here's where we're at. We have the ABS port filled with grease. And I take my finger and I push my finger down into it and then start spinning it. Spinning the hub. You actually feel it start to suck the bearing grease down into the hub assembly. Now what I'm doing here is just taking any loose, non-dirty crap and just shoving it down inside there. And when I go to reload it, I have my grease zerk on the end of it, which kind of worked over here. So if you have a straight grease zerk instead of an angled one like me, that would work a lot better. Shove it in there until it gets tight. Load it with grease until it starts to come out again. Pull it back out. Take your finger, stick it in there. You feel it, hear it, and then you start spinning the bearing again, and it sucks the grease in. Probably do that about 20 or 30 times, and then you packed a bunch of grease in there. You start to feel see where it popped out? It said poop, because it's pretty tight. This bearing has gotten pretty tight, so it's working for this bearing. So I think that's all I'm going to put into it for now. And now that you've seen how this all comes apart, it's just reverse order. I'm going to get this wrapped up, put my front end back together, go take a nap and a shower. You guys have a good day. Talk to you later.